It's time for Hot Matchups presented by Wingstop, as the Baltimore Ravens are a 2.5-point favorite at the Cincinnati Bengals, who did get their first win of the season going up on the road against the Carolina Panthers last week. The over-under at 50.5. Kevin Harlan and Trent Green on the call. It should be a fun game, Greg.
Yes.
We've wanted to see a healthy Joe Burrow go up against this Ravens team. Now we finally get that opportunity.
I think it'll be a fun game, especially for you, Patrick, who, leans a little Ravens. Sometimes analysis, like our jobs are too easy. Like what reason do we have to think that the Bengals defense as a whole, and especially on the ground, is going to stop this mass unit of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? Because I don't have any. This Ravens running attack is looking more cohesive in terms of their offensive line. We know the two runners are just electric, and I have no faith in this Bengals defense. If we were looking for a spicy, survivor pick here, I might actually like the Ravens even better than the Vikings. I'm fine with the Vikings. We'll stick with that. But the Ravens, I feel good about the Ravens.
It's weird because, you think about Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator for the Bengals, and man, this guy is so good and he's such a great in-game adjuster. They have not figured it out. But my thing more so is with the Ravens, because they seem to have found their identity a little bit. And that's a dangerous thing. Like, they were figuring out, remember the first game against the Chiefs, Ronnie Stanley kept the illegal alignment type of thing. Like, that got in their heads, right? Their offensive line wasn't working first couple of games. It was mashing last week against the Bills. They were very, very impressive. They set their identity. They are not going to get away from that against the Cincinnati Bengals. And if they do, the Bengals secondary is a little wobbly.
They benched Cam Taylor-Britt last week.
Which is crazy because he has been a hell of a player. He's not playing well. We know the safeties have not been good since they got rid of Jesse Bates a couple years ago. I just think this is one we're going to see Mark Andrews finally really get involved in a wheelhouse. Isaiah Likely. I think we're going to see some things happening in that game as well, that part of things.
And we're also going to learn whether or not it's a sustainable thing, because Roger Rosengarten had his first start last week. Played incredibly well for his first NFL start. Derrick Henry goes for 87 yards on the very first carry. Andrew Voorhees was out, so they had to move Patrick McCarry inside. And that shuffling was like the greatest thing to ever happen, right? Because they were having problems on the interior of the offensive line, and everything seemed to work out in their favor. My concern is on the outside with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and a healthy and accurate Joe Burrow. This team is not too far removed from getting Devontae and as well as Gardner Minshew.
But can the Bengals keep up in a shootout? I think that's going to be the question for them all season. And I think against a lot of teams, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Against this Ravens team, which surprisingly to me, DVOA, which is just total efficiency, has them as the number one passing attack and the number one rushing attack, which is pretty wild because they've been that efficient when they have been throwing the ball. So I trust the Ravens defense just so much more that, you can get into a shootout, but your defense just really is going to make life hard. It's going to be good for T. Higgins and Chase's fantasy numbers and Burrow's fantasy numbers all year long. I did want to mention they had Chris Jenkins come in last week, the rookie, and he apparently played pretty well. And BJ Hill is maybe getting healthy, so that would help their Bengals defense. But I noticed this Bengals offense, for what it's worth, has faced the second easiest collection of defenses so far in the entire NFL. So they've been racking up some big numbers. This is a tougher test for them.
Yes, it is.
It's significantly tougher. I see the Ravens getting better. The Bengals getting better as well. It's tough to let go of the past in those matchups, because a lot of those guys Lou had success with are still right.
That's true. A couple years ago, they gave the Ravens everything they could handle every time they could. Although last year it was a different Ravens team, Bengals team, but they did sweep the Bengals last year. This is a Kevin Harlan, Trent Green game. Surprise. Yeah. This is an early 10 a.m. start. Kevin Harlan, Trent Green. Love hearing Kevin Harlan on a big game